Tommy Thompson, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, revealed that a man in Florida has been diagnosed with anthrax. Health officials believe it was inhaled, the first such case in 25 years. Secretary Thompson was quick to reassure.
Based on what we know at this point, it appears that it's an isolated case. I want to make sure that everybody understands that anthrax is not contagious and is not communicable, which means it is not spread from person to person. If it is caught early enough, it can be prevented and treated with antibiotics.
There is still a lot we do not know about this case. We'll start our look for answers with CNN medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Good evening.
Good evening, Aaron.
I've been in this line of work since I was 18 years old, 30 years. I have never reported a case of anthrax in my life that I can remember. How rare is it, not just in this country, but anywhere?
Aaron, there's only been 18 cases of inhaled anthrax between 1900 and 1976, and not a single case before today of inhaled anthrax over the last 25 years. I went to medical school here. I never saw a case of it. We glossed over it in textbooks. It's a very rare thing. It took a CDC actually to be able to make the diagnosis.
And we're not just talking about rarity in the United States. We're talking about it being rare anywhere in the world.
That's right, Aaron. We just don't have a lot of cases of anthrax, which is an important point because there's not a lot to study. Most of what we know comes from a case in Russia in 1979 where 68 of 79 people died after an accidental anthrax outbreak. There's not many cases. Most of the cases are sporadic, come from people working with goat fur, for example. The spores from anthrax sometimes are in the goat fur itself, or eating undercooked goat meat, but very rare, very few cases, very little to study.
And the implications of the rarity, because that's really where you were going there, it seems to me, is that doctors and scientists don't have a lot to work with. Fair enough?
That's right. I mean, you know, you hear a lot, Aaron, about what's the best treatment going to be for anthrax. In order to really know that, you'd have to knowingly expose people to what is known to be a deadly bacteria. Obviously, no one wants to do that, so it's really hard to know what treatments are going to work. So it is rare, and that makes it harder to know.
Explain again how this could happen, for lack of a better word, benignly. And what I mean by benignly in this case is that it wasn't a terrorist who spread the spores out there. How would one become infected with anthrax?
Well, you know, I've talked to a few different doctors, people, infectious disease doctors today about this who work most closely with infectious diseases such as anthrax. No, to answer you directly, no one really knows for sure. People used to get it by working with livestock, such as goats. The spores are very, very resistant to all sorts of different damages, so they can persist in soil for a long time, and sometimes if soil is unearthed that has a lot of spores in them, it could unearth enough spores to actually cause an infection. But again, Aaron, it's just all really speculation. Nobody really knows. It's a very unusual case, and you know, the answer hopefully will come out over the next few days.
Look, we're all trying to balance something very carefully here. We want to be careful we don't make people more fearful than they already are. We're trying to get information out. At the same time, when you heard about this afternoon, I assume late this afternoon, was your first impulse, oh my goodness?
You know, Aaron, two things were sort of going through my mind at that time. One is that, yeah, absolutely, oh my goodness. You know, we've been talking about it, I've been talking about it, you've been talking about it, it's happening. Everything we've been talking about is happening. Another part of me, Aaron, said, you know, we are so hyper aware now. We're looking for it. Everybody's on the lookout for it. Maybe that's the reason we found it. In fact, there were cases of anthrax over the last 25 years that were sort of chalked up to unknowns. They never really figured out what the problem was. Anthrax was so unusual, people didn't usually put it in their thoughts as a possibility of causing the infection. Now everyone's thinking about it, and certainly when this man showed up with symptoms that could be anthrax, people immediately thought about it and sent the sample off to the CDC to have it confirmed. So it could be sort of one of two things there, Aaron. Both those things were sort of going through my mind.
I hadn't thought of that at all, that perhaps there have been anthrax cases out there where they were just never diagnosed as such. Because otherwise you have to be a great believer in coincidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sanjay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Aaron.
I appreciate it. Sanjay Gupta joining us from Atlanta tonight with a medical view of that.